I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, February the 28th, brought to you in part by Joplin Regional Stockyards. Got a lighter run here, only about 4,500 head expected, but I bet they end up getting more than that. They've been underestimating here for the last several weeks as more guys are just wanting to move cattle than what they're expecting, but sure have 4,500 head. Not going to start till 8 o'clock in the morning, which is kind of banker's hours for them. And they wanted to note that they have many strings of cattle in this lighter run, including a lot of loads of yearlings and a lot of big strings of stocker type cattle with some good grazing condition on them. So if you guys are interested in that, get on to dvauction.com. You can view and bid that sale at Joplin Regional Stockyards here today on Monday. Also want to note that one of our feeder flash gang members is retiring and going to be selling his grass cattle farm there in southwest Missouri. That's some of the best cattle raising country that there is in these United States, I tell you what. But got a place that's just 20 minutes north of Mountain Grove, and it's got 837 acres of grass and hay, 37 fenced in pastures. So you can do rotational grazing deal on that, run a lot of cattle on that place. I mean a lot of cattle in southwest Missouri, guys. They have grass and water there. And he's got water for all those cattle to drink. A lot of big tire tanks there. He's got a spring-fed creek that runs through that place. Got a 100 by 240 foot feeding barn right there. 60 by 40 heated shop. He's got commodity barns. He's got hay barns. He's got a 4-bedroom, 4-bath home there. 5,000 square foot home. If you guys would be interested in doing something like that, get a hold of Brian Peck at Mossy Oak Properties, and he could get you a private viewing of that property there. But tell you what, you don't see deals like that very often. But nuclear war, is that where we're headed? You know, we've known that Russia has been invaded Ukraine there, and that's their neighbor there close to you, and that's one reason that we haven't went in there and knocked them off, is because we don't want to start a nuclear war over something that's not really any of our business. But this Ukraine deal is a little bit bigger than what it appeared at the start. You know, Ukraine's a pretty big country, got 44 million people in it. They are a pretty big ag country there. They raise a lot of grains in that country. They raise a lot of fuel in that country, a lot of fertilizer in that country. Those are all things that are going through the roof right now, guys. And we've got this bully Putin that's just wanting more power and going in there and just trying to invade them and take them back over. But he has said here late in the week, last week, that he was wanting to put his nuclear forces on high alert. Now, why would you even play around with something like that? I mean, just to say that just makes people cringe all over, because you know, none of us can imagine what a nuclear war would be like. But let's don't talk about nuclear war in this little localized skirmish here with Ukraine, just trying to get things back like they were when he was a KGB agent there. But this whole deal has got the whole world on alert, and there was all kinds of protests all over the world, and most all of them against Putin, and especially in Europe. I tell you what, it's getting pretty close to home for some of those countries in Europe, some of those really developed countries. And they're getting a little bit scared about this deal. They've put sanctions on him, trying to get him shut down. They could be a little more stringent on the sanctions, but they have knocked him off of the SWIFT deal, which is kind of a confusing deal. But basically, some of the main banks there in Russia are not going to be able to communicate with some other big banks around the world. And doing business with them, but of course they didn't cut him plumb off. He's still going to get his payments for his oil, And so that's what they probably should have done, but he might have broke out the nuclear weapons immediately then. But tell you what, this Putin, we've kind of known he was a bully, and of course he's a tyrant there. But it's kind of like he's off his rocker now. And everybody thought that our former President Trump was crazy. Well, he was a good crazy, because you weren't sure what he was going to do or what he was going to say, but always good-hearted and kind of had things, in the right frame of mind. But this Putin looks like he might be evil crazy. And there's two kinds of crazy. It kind of like reminds me of some of these women that I've dated, But the good crazy's okay, but that evil crazy, you got to stay away from them. And but I think Putin may have shit his nest, because he's got the whole world mad at him. Not that he cares. I mean, he doesn't care what people think of him. He doesn't even care what the people in his own country think about him. But I think that may be part of his problem. He's just been so closed off. But this deal with Russia and Ukraine, they're supposed to be having some talks here early this week, maybe even before the markets open up. And if they could find something to get a kind of a ceasefire going on this, I think things would kind of get back to normal. But man, last month we just had our markets rocked. You're knocked off their rocker there. And of course, on Friday, we had a lot of profit taken from the traders that kind of take advantage of those deals. And actually, when you got done, your grains weren't all that much higher, except for Kansas City hard red winter wheat, than they were of the previous week. But we got to watch this deal. I tell you what, it's making such a big difference in our fuel, all of our input prices. We've got oil back up around $100 a barrel now. And if they don't get this thing settled pretty quick, it's just going to continue to get worse. But on Friday, we had a cattle on feed report come out that was completely overshadowed by that war and all the upheaval that it was producing. But we didn't even hardly see anybody talking about it. But it came out exactly neutral. I mean, none of the three main numbers come in more than 0.2% different than what the average of the analyst guess was. Your February 1st inventories on feed come out exactly to the 0.1% of what they thought it would be, at 100.7. I thought it might be bigger than that, because everywhere I've been, I mean, they've got cattle turned out in the feed alleys too. But placements in January, they come in at 98.7% of a year ago. The average guess was 98.6. I mean, exactly right on. Marketing's come in at 96.9. The average guess 97.1. So we got through that. That's not going to make a difference at all. But I wouldn't be surprised to see your cattle futures go down again if we don't get something settled on this war over there in Eastern Europe. But let's talk about your board for last week. February live cattle futures. Of course, Monday was President's Day. Tuesday was up 50 cents. Wednesday down 70. Thursday down 2.52 as that war escalated. Friday down $1.25. And your February live cattle futures ended the trading and ended the week, and we'll go off the board, 139.27. Okay, 139.27, and our average on live steers last week was 143.40. Well, if we can't depend on that futures contract to come out at the same as cash when it matures, what the hell good is it? But 139.27 compared to 143.40 through Thursday, your average of trades, it just don't make any sense to me. But it got caught up in the war stuff, and it was down almost $4, $3.98 for the week. April ended the week at 141.92. It was underneath what our cash was last week, and we're supposed to be, getting into the time where we can really make hay. But 141.92 was down $3.95. That's what makes me think it's going to come back here this early this week if we don't see any more uprising of this war. But look out at next April. It's still sitting at 152.60 at the end of the week there, guys. How about March feeder cattle? Nothing on Monday, Tuesday, and it was down all week long until a bunch of profit taken on Friday. Tuesday down $1.20, Wednesday down 145, Thursday down 367, and Friday up 92 cents. With your March feeder cattle contract ending the week at 160.02, which is pretty much par. Actually, maybe a tick better than what we can get for 800-pound steers right now, but the closest it's been for a long time. But it was down $5.40 for the week. Ouch. April 164.75 was down $6.10 for the week. Man, somebody owes somebody some money. How about next October and November are still sitting out there at 186 and change, guys. And I tell you what, I'd be hard pressed not to lay those cattle off if you're going to be turning yearlings out. How about your fat cattle trade? Through Thursday, the lightest trade we've seen for here for several weeks of only 50,700 head, and the market was tougher. Whenever we have a big volume, the price goes up, and then whenever they suck it back, you know, and they get the leverage back, and we don't see a lot of trade. Then when we have really, really light trade, then that's when the market's lower. Yet we can't seem to get people behind a minimum mandate for negotiated cash trade. But live sales in your 5 area feeding region last week, direct basis, 138 to 145. Big spread on there. Of course, there was just that one deal in Texas that traded at 138. That was $3 less than anything else. Not a lot of 145, but it was unevenly $1 higher. But it was mostly $1 higher because we had so much more 143 and 144 in the northern plains. So the northern plains was a little bit higher. Southern plains just a touch weaker, but not a lot of trade in the southern plains. So through Thursday of last week, live steers averaged 143.40 in your 5 area feeding region. Dress sales 224 to 229. The price spread was exactly steady, but your weighted average was mostly a buck higher because we had higher trades within that spread. But dress steers averaged 227.02. Did have a little bit of trade on Friday. Iowa about 300 head, 22,600 head for the week. Friday sales were just at 226. Nebraska about 800 head on Friday, less than 18,000 for the week. Live sales on Friday 142, 143. Dress sales at 229. That's as high as we had them all week. Kansas about 2,600 head for the week. Still light for them, only a little over 11,000 for the week. Live sales still at 142, so that's good. Texas about 1,400 on Friday, not quite 4,000 for the week. And live sales in Texas on Friday, a little bit of 141, mostly 142. Box beef cutout values were lower again, but that should be coming to an end. Usually, seasonally, we start finding a bottom to them at the end of February. They're looking out front towards spring, and your retailers want to be stocked up whenever people get their grills out. But your choice cuts, your weighted average for all of last week's trades, 260.82, down $9.06 from the weighted average previous week. And our late Friday sales were a couple bucks lower than that, 258.27. Our select cuts weighted average for all of last week, 258.88, down 7.15. And you remember one day of trading last week, your select actually closed higher than what the choice did. But they got that back straightened out. But your late week Friday afternoon sales on select were about $3 lower than that weighted average at 255.41. We haven't checked in with Ellis and Carter, my buddy that's got the big order buying deal in Santo, Texas, over there by Weatherford, Texas. He covers about 50 sales a week. Got order buyers all over Central and East Texas. They're buying up calves and putting them together to ship them out. Ellison sent me some quotes for last week's buy there late in the week. These are cattle that shipped out on Sunday. Told me they had lighter runs because they were still reeling from some of the weather that had come through there the week before, late in the week there, so a little bit lighter runs. But these would be prices on loads of cattle, delivered prices to the Texas Panhandle or Western Oklahoma. So you can just kind of figure that depending on where you live. But listen to some of these quotes. Any of these cattle would work if you get an LRP or if you hedge them. If you got a place to put them, can keep them alive, and something for them to eat, which I know that's asking a lot these days. But look at the steers and bulls on there. He had a load average 315 pounds, said they's good enough to go anywhere at 194.30 on the average price there. Had a load that averaged 375 at 189. Load of all blacks, 405 pounds at 188.50. Load of some plainer type steers weighed 430 at 174 and a quarter. That'd be a ton cheaper than what they are, guys, up in the Midwest. And then a load that weighed 820 pounds at 149.90. That's delivered price, guys. How about the heifers? 370 pound load there. Said they were kind of plain at 154.15. Load that averaged 420 pounds, all black at 165.95. A load that averaged 535 pounds, said they were cow makers or replacement quality, 164 and a quarter. Load that averaged 555, they were on the plainer side at 143.90. Load of all black heifers averaged 565 at 162.85. A load that averaged 610 pounds at 146.75, they would be good ones. And a load of heifers, yearling type, 775 pounds at 121.65. Guys, you want to know how the big boys do it? That's how they do it. I mean, you got to find some cattle that you can buy that have a good chance of making some money. Talk about your feeder cattle markets in your big sale barns. Late last week there, real-time index brought to you by Margin Tracks by Midcon. End of the week at 159.38 after the Saturday sales. That was down $1.79 compared to the end of the previous week. So your big feeding type cattle continued that same trend of being a little bit cheaper, and calves were higher again. And not as sharply higher as they were the 2 weeks before, but still selling higher. How about winter livestock? Winter South Dakota, their market was kind of uneven. They had a lighter run than they did the previous week. But look at this automated market report through Cattle Market Central. Look at the best tested weights of steers. 268 head of 7-weight steers averaged 743. The weighted average price of 175.80. 226 head of 8-weight steers, winter South Dakota averaged 821, 166.47. 212 head 9-weight steers, winter South Dakota, they averaged 974 with a weighted average price of 154.12. Talk about some individual quotes all around the circuit that are very impressive. Verdigris stockyards, Verdigris Nebraska, and all of them are going to come from Nebraska except for Winter's top quote for the day, and that was just over the line in South Dakota. But Verdigris stockyards, 59 head, 900 pound steers, and 160. You can't hardly get 160 for 800 pounders, let alone 900 pounders. But cost about that to put it on too, so who knows. How about Burwell Livestock Market, Burwell, Nebraska, 79 head, 756 pound steers at 172.50. Lexington Livestock Market in Lexington, Nebraska, sold 61 head of 630 pound steers on Friday, bring 194 and a quarter. But the best quote that I saw anywhere late last week, your National Beef Wire top quote for the day, come out of Winter Livestock Auction, Winter, South Dakota, 73 head, 810 pound steers at 169.50. That's your feeder flash for Monday.